pollution on the environment by factories, followed by respiratory infections, and then failure by government agencies like NEMA to rein in polluters. And when the regulatory body finally heard their cry, they insist they were once again denied their right to clean air by another government body, the National Environment Tribunal. Their woes were escalated by a private international air quality monitoring company. They have battled in the corridors of justice for close to 2 years, while their lungs continue to be weakened by particles from a polluted environment. Hundreds have developed respiratory problems and tens have succumbed to them.
It was a chest-related problem and nothing could be done.
As they suffocated under the cloud of pollution, polluters were getting richer and expanding their businesses. This is the story of the battle for air and the agencies that escalated the fight. The world is facing a pandemic that has thrown economies into a spin. The number of mortalities is rising. Many companies and factories have been forced to shut down world over. And environmentalists have reported a massive decline in air and water pollution. The earth is simply breathing again. But is it same for Kenya? We are on our way to Syokimau in Machakos County. Before COVID-19, it was the epicenter of industrial pollution from noise, water to air. But even before we hit the area, neighboring Kenya's main gateway, the JKIA, signs are there that we might be looking at a case of increased pollution. Along Mombasa Road, just around the inland container depot, we spot dark and white smog, billow from a factory. Our focus is on a factory in Syokimau that has been on our radar for over a year now. A company that has been polluting the air for years as nearby residents watch helplessly. Its location just after the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. And the evidence of a choking atmosphere when you approach Syokimau is overpowering. It is 6 a.m. when we arrive at Syokimau, the estate bordering East Africa's biggest airport, the JKIA. The beautiful homes here have been ravaged by smog from a nearby steel factory. Dark emissions are rising into the air as we arrive. The noxious emissions coming from the backside of the steel milling entity. It goes on and on. But as the clock ticks, the amount of smog released starts to reduce slowly. And by the time the minute hand hits 8 o'clock, the smog has disappeared. Joshua Odhiambo Nyakune has been observing the factory for some time now.
Huwa inaendelea kwa sababu inafanya mchana na usiku. Kwa sababu sasa inamaanisha ni kitu ambayo iko. Ni kitu ambayo iko, si ati ni ya kubahatisha. Ile masaa wanatoa moshi mingi ni usiku. Ni usiku. Juu hata hao ni kama wamejua usiku ndio ile wakati ambao wako na muda mzuri.
The most affected estate is the neighboring Bustani Villas. One woman has seen it all. Flavia Mungai has been a resident here for over a decade now. And for the over 4 years, the factory has been her neighbor. She says the struggle to breathe has been real.
Before, it used to be a couple of hours, and they'll do it a lot at night. But now, it's throughout the day. The whole day, the whole night, 24 hours.
Owing to pollution of the air around her house, she never opens her windows. Dusting her window frames, pipes, and timber has been her daily routine for over 3 years. Evidence of pollution is crystal.
A lot of black soot. We have to clean every day. The surfaces, furniture, window sills, everywhere. There's a lot of soot. Every morning you wake up, that is the trend.
Since the COVID-19 pandemic hit the country in March this year, schools have been closed, and so her 3 children are at home. And despite Bustani Villas having a beautiful playfield for the children, she can't allow them to go out. Their bikes have been locked. Whenever they want to have fun, this is where they congregate. She says whenever they get out, they come back sick.
So you will take medicines for the rest of your life, or what will you do? We can't open our windows, as you can see. All the windows are sealed, all the windows are closed. If you look around, there's nobody who opens their windows for fresh air, because there's no fresh air.
We began looking into the activities of Endmor steel millers following a public outcry from this neighborhood. Complaints on social media were rising by the day from residents of the estate. Images of the factory emitting black and white smog were doing rounds on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and WhatsApp, but no one in authority seemed moved. We teamed up with data journalism organization Code for Africa to investigate the claims. Using these digital air quality monitoring machines, Code for Africa has been following the plight of Syokimau residents and their battle with Endmor steel millers over air. First, we commissioned an online survey for residents of Syokimau affected by pollution from the steel milling factory. The data was to help us understand how big the issue of pollution was here. Within a day, over 50 people had responded. 70% of them complained of having developed respiratory illness owing to pollution. But one case caught our attention. That of Nazir Hakada. He had lost his daughter to respiratory complications, and his son was now struggling with similar conditions.
My loss has been very painful, and I would not want any parent to go through what I've been through.
What you're seeing here now is Endmor. Good morning, 10th September 2019.
Nazir started documenting air pollution in his estate the moment children started exhibiting chest-related problems. Using his phone, he took images showing just how Endmor steel millers was polluting his neighborhood.
12:30 a.m. The factory is heavily working tonight. This is on the 27th night of August 2019.
Every single night, he would come out to take pictures of what was happening around his estate and the factory. He stays in Sawada Villas. He captured smoke escaping from every corner of the steel milling factory. And since the factory wasn't releasing emissions through its chimney, he captured most of the smoke, ending up in the neighboring Bustani Villas.
There are times when I'm sitting here and I decide, let me have my walk. When I go out at, say, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, I realize I can't breathe. I see the factory. I have to come back in, get my camera, get my phone camera. This is how all these pictures have been coming about. It's not something that I've been sitting and wanting to target the factory. It's just at the spur of the moment is as I'm driving in, what I witness, I feel it's unbearable. Those are the recordings I've been doing. Those are the pictures I've been taking.
By this time, both his daughter and son were struggling to breathe. They had developed respiratory complications. His daughter has been hospitalized.
Doctors will not specify exactly where the problem is, but they will give you an analysis of the patient when the patient was being treated. If you look at the result that came out for both my daughter and my son, the results were one, which was chest-related infection problem.
He outrightly knew the problem was in the air they breathe.
And he asked me, have you tried finding out from the school whether any of the children have had a similar problem with chest-related problems? By then, my daughter was not schooling, it was only my son. Within that week when he was hospitalized, this was on his birthday on the 1st of April, we investigated through the school and found out that there were no similar symptoms with any of the students over there. So I went back to the doctor and I told him, this is it.
This was in October 2018. It had taken more than a year of protest and complaints on social media before the National Environment Management Authority, NEMA, could begin taking action. According to court documents, on the 2nd of October 2018, NEMA inspected the facility and instructed them to stop further air pollution. On the 4th of that month, NEMA was back and found out that the factory was still polluting in spite of the earlier directive. But shockingly, NEMA went ahead to issue Endmor steel mills with what is known as a stalk emissions license that very day, the license that essentially allowed them to continue releasing gases and particles into the air. NEMA insists the license had strict conditions attached to it and that it would be implemented only after the company had complied. Many residents here, however, wondered what made the environment regulator think that the company that ignored its initial notice was going to comply this time round. On the 27th of October 2018, NEMA arranged a meeting between Endmor Steel Mills and residents. Mitigation measures were agreed upon, but according to the regulator, it didn't work. Endmor Steel Millers ignored every part of the agreement. In January of 2019, environmental inspectors from NEMA headquarters inspected the facility again. In the observation, Endmor Steel Millers had installed an appropriate air pollution control and air passing through its cleaning system was within limits. But it turned out that not all emissions were being captured in their observations, and a huge plume of dark smoke and whitish smoke continued to jet out into the adjacent neighborhood, an indication of significant air pollution even to the naked eye rule assessment. It was marked in the report as the major problem with the operations of the facility. This was on the 24th of January 2019.